right, a great morning to everyone who has joined us on today's edition of the show Scoreboard in 15 right here on 32 FM 94.9. Well, today is the 16th day in the year that's in the month of June in the year 2025. But I want to tell you that over the course of the weekend, we had the start of the expanded edition of the FIFA Club World Cup. And how excited were you with the set of games that went down over the course of the weekend? Yesterday in particular, that was when the games have begun. And I can tell you that while Inter Miami and Al-Ahly, they played out a 0-0 draw in front of a elderly crowd. That's on the opening night of FIFA Club World Cup game. That was in the early hours of that Sunday. And then we talk about the other games that went down from Bayern Munich defeating Auckland City. That's by 10-0. Jamal Musiala coming off the bench to score a hat-trick for himself in that encounter. Michael Olise getting a brace, Boye getting a goal, Kingsley Coman also getting a brace, Thomas Muller getting a brace for himself. You could tell that it was such a great one for Bayern Munich defeating that professionals who definitely work hard, but they have the time to play football. That's Auckland City, 10-0. And aside from that, also for the Parisians, talking about the champions of the UEFA Champions League. Well, they defeated Atletico de Madrid 4-0 yesterday. Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha, Mayulu, and Lee Kang-in were all on target for that Paris Saint-Germain as they defeated Atletico de Madrid by 4-0. And for the other two games that went down late last night and also in the early hours of today, that was Palmeiras. They were held to that's a 0-0 draw. That's by Porto, a 0-0 draw. It ended that between those sides, and then you tell that for Botafogo, well, they defeated their opponent to 2-1 in the early hours of today. Seattle Sundowns by 2-1. And the action continues later today when Chelsea Football Club would be in action. And then outside all of these FIFA Club World Cup headlines, we'll discuss about a bit from football stories where the Azuris of Italy, they have a new man after this man was fired. Talking about Luciano Spalletti. While they have a new man, this man is a legend. He won the FIFA Club World Cup with the Azuris of Italy. You get to know about that on the show. And also we have a bit from the transfer world before we talk about tennis and basketball stories, which definitely we also have from Lawan Stories on the lineup for us this lovely morning. Well, you know you're listening to the voice of 𝐂𝐿𝐿 SAMIES, so get on the program this lovely morning right on 32 FM 94.9. But let's begin straight from that's the exciting world of football, where it's just from, that's the Italian national team, where Gennaro Gattuso, well, he has been named Italy's new coach and will be tasked with helping the Azuris qualify for the 2026 World Cup after replacing Luciano Spalletti at the age of 47. Remember that he was part of the Italian side that won that's the FIFA Men's World Cup in the year 2006. And he has 73 caps for the national team as a player. Well, according to the Federation of Italian Football, that's FIGC, they said Gattuso is a symbol of Italian football. The blue shirt is like a second skin for him. His motivation, his professionalism, and his experience will be essential. Well, for Italy, they have failed to qualify for the past two World Cups and started their bid to reach next year's tournament in North America with a 3-0 loss to Norway last week. Right, quickly discussing about a bit of transfer stories on the show. Also, this lovely morning, it is about 𝐿. The young French forward, he has signed that on a permanent deal from Bayern Munich to join that's Tottenham Football Club. The 20-year-old scored 3 goals in 20 appearances in all competitions for Tottenham last season after joining on loan in February. While 𝐿 he signed a 6-year deal with Tottenham for a transfer fee of around £35 million, according to that report. While he scored 16 goals for Bayern Munich after signing as a teenager from Rennes. But then, under new manager, talking about Thomas Frank, let's see what the future will hold for that 𝐿. All right, let's talk about the Club World Cup. I said about the games that went down for Bayern Munich defeating Auckland. That's 10-0. Inter Miami also playing out a 0-0 draw against Al-Ahly. And I can tell you that in Group A, it is left square. That's in Group A of the FIFA Club World Cup after the 4 teams they played out a goalless draw in their encounter. Well, we know we have Inter Miami, we have Al-Ahly, we also have Palmeiras and Porto in that group. So it was a 0-0 in all the games that went down in that group, and of course they all have 1 point. But talking about the big boys, that's Bayern Munich winning by 10 goals to 0. You tell that they actually took the record away from Al-Hilal, that by becoming the side with the highest marginal victory that's in the FIFA Club World Cup. We tell about some other games that went down. It is the game which also involves Paris Saint-Germain defeating Atletico de Madrid by 4 goals to 0. Well, going into that game, of course, Paris Saint-Germain oozing with confidence, coming on the back of winning the UEFA Champions League, and also a few of their players who went on international duty who definitely had a great time with the selection shields of Portugal, defeating Spain in the finals of the UEFA Nations League. Well, for Fabian Ruiz, he was the one who drew the first blood in that encounter. Vitia of Portugal also got a goal. Mayulu, the youngster who came on the bench also to score in the UEFA Champions League final, came off the bench again yesterday to score against Atletico de Madrid. And then 𝐂𝐿 scored from the penalty spot in the 97th minute. Well, Clement Lenglet, the man who just made his move permanent from Barcelona, he got his match in order after 2 yellow cards in that encounter in the 78th minute. And of course, he got a red card. For lots of football fans who definitely will be wanting to see who that Ousmane Dembele in the course of the group stage of the FIFA Club World Cup. No, you won't see him until that's the knockout stages of the FIFA Club World Cup. That's according to the head coach, that's Luis Enrique. And then for Palmeiras, like I said, it was a 0-0 between themselves and Porto. For Brazil, they defeated Seattle Sounders by 2 goals to 1. And then you tell that the Brazilian side, they capitalized on 2 first-half defensive errors, while the Seattle Sounders mounted a late push, but they couldn't avoid that's a disappointing defeat. Quickly moving away from beats of that's football stories, let's talk about tennis, where Taylor Fritz defeated Alexander Zverev in straight sets in a rain-eater final there in Stuttgart, Germany, to win his first ATP title of the season. 6-3, 7-6. That was the victory, despite being held up by a lengthy rain delay early in the second set. And for Taylor Fritz now, he has won his last 5 meetings with Zverev, and is set to climb into 4th in the world rankings, a place just behind the German. And then I talk about another woman who definitely won for herself over the course of the weekend. Her name is Tatiana Maria. She completed an incredible run from qualifying for to the title as she defeated Amanda Anisimova to become the first women's champions at Queens for 52 years. Well, you know that these women, this is what they do, and I've definitely been discussing about inconsistency in that women's tennis game. Well, you tell that the 37-year-old German confounded the American world number 15 in a 6-3-6-4 victory, and it's capped an astonishing week for the mother of 2 who dropped just 1 set across 7 matches. That's in 9 days, and she has beaten 4 top 15 players over the past 5 days, including reigning Australian champion Madison Keys. Well, let's take a listen to what she has to say, talking about that's the woman herself who definitely went on with that feat by defeating that, talking about Amanda Anisimova in the finals. Well, that's talking about Tatiana Maria. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
Congratulations. As you wrote on the camera, you are the Queen of Queens. Just tell me how it feels to have written a little piece of tennis history here.
It's amazing. I mean, a dream comes true. I came here, I was never thinking that I could hold a trophy at the end. I mean, it was funny because when we arrived here, my little daughter, she said, wow, that's a nice trophy, so big. And I said, so yeah, let's go for the trophy. I will try to win it. And at the end, I won it. I mean, it's incredible. I'm so happy.
And how important is it to you? I mean, we've heard about your family watching and being able to inspire them as they go along, but to prove to them that you don't need to do things the same as everybody else in order to succeed.
I think it's really important. I mean, everything is possible. If you believe on it, then you go your way. Doesn't matter which it is. Everybody has a different one. but you have to keep going, and that's the most important. And I want to show this my kids, and hopefully they are proud of me. Anyway, they are proud, I know it, but no, it's really amazing.
Today, listening to the words of Sachna Maria, who definitely is reflecting on an inspiring run from qualifying to the Queen's Club champion after the 37-year-old defeated Amanda Anisimova. Well, one fun fact is that for our longevity, talking about Sachna Maria, well, she made her professional debut just a few days before the 23-year-old Amanda Anisimova was born. Well, you know about that already. But we quickly move away from that and talk about what happened in the octagon over the course of the weekend. 𝐃𝐈𝐒 Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, well, he secured his first UFC win since 2021 when he overcame Jacques Buckley in the welterweight main event of the fight night held at the State Farm Arena there in Atlanta, Georgia. That was in the early hours of yesterday, and he took the victory on unanimous decision 49-46, 49-46, 48-47 after 5 rounds, in which his wrestling came to the fore and laid the foundation for success. Back in the winning column, that's 𝐃𝐈𝐒 Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare. All right, so quickly in the world of Formula One, title rivals are the McLaren's teammate Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri came to blows for the first time as the Briton appeared to misjudge a passing attempt in the Canadian Grand Prix, and you could tell that one man pulled away from that, and definitely it was victorious from what happened. That was over the course of the weekend, and then I can tell you that from the Canadian Grand Prix, it was George Russell of the Mercedes who finished that first position, and then Max Verstappen of the Red Bull finished second, and then we have that's of the Mercedes and Turley finishing third. That's in that race that went out there in Canada later yesterday. And just before we leave, also there in the world of that track and field, Armand Duplantis, the Swedish man, he broke the men's pole vault record for a 12th time with a clearance of 6.28 meters at the Diamond League meeting there in Stockholm. And this one was extra special for the 25-year-old. However, as it was his first time, he had improved the world best there in Sweden. Well, definitely a good one for Armand Duplantis. Well, I call him that's the Dolphin at this point in time. Well, he's got it. He keeps setting the record. But all he says is, catch me if you can. Well, from the finals of the basketball game that went on there in South Africa, Pretoria to be precise, Al Tripoli of Libya secured their first Basketball African League title after defeating Petro de Luanda, that's 88-67 in a dominant performance during the Saturday's final there in Pretoria. Well, this is how far we can go on today's edition of the show right on 32 FM 94.9. We'll come later in the afternoon. That's by 3:30. Scoreboard reloaded, myself and Peter, to definitely reload all the headlines, making around today in the exciting world of sports. And then we throw in our 2 cents about everything that also happened over the course of the weekend. Do enjoy the rest of it.